Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story packed with empires, betrayal, and revenge. It has all the drama of a modern political thriller, but here's the really wild part. The script seems to have been written hundreds of years before any of it actually happened.
So you might be asking, how is that even possible? Well, we're going to dig into an ancient text that appears to lay out with stunning accuracy a whole saga of kings, a doomed princess, and a scorned queen, all playing out on the world stage.
All right, so let's set the stage. Our story kicks off right after the death of the legendary Alexander the Great. He had this massive empire, right? But instead of going to one person, it shattered and was split up among his top generals.
And this massive splits basically created two new rival superpowers. Down in Egypt, you had the Ptolemaic kingdom, which the text we're looking at calls the King of the South. And up north in Syria, you had the huge Seleucid Empire, the King of the North. And believe me, their rivalry was going to shape history for a long, long time.
Okay, so let's look at the first clue, the first piece of this puzzle. It comes from the book of Daniel, chapter 11, verse 5. This verse really sets the stage, describing the power balance right at the beginning. And this is where things get really interesting. The text says the king of the south, historically a guy named Ptolemy I, would be strong in Egypt. But then it says one of his princes would become strong above him. And get this, that perfectly describes one of Ptolemy's own former generals, Seleucus I, who went on to build this enormous empire to the north that totally dwarfed Egypt.
So, after years and years of fighting, just constant expensive wars, these two kingdoms decided to try something different. They put down their weapons and tried to make peace with a wedding.
And right there in Daniel 11, verse 6, it lays out the whole plan. It's like a diplomatic memo written in advance. It says the king's daughter of the south will go to the king of the north to make a deal.
All right, let's meet the cast of this royal drama. You've got Ptolemy II, the king of the south. He sends his daughter, the princess Berenice, to marry Antiochus II, the king of the north. Now here's the big problem. Antiochus was already married to a very powerful woman named Laodice, and he had to basically divorce her for this new political marriage. You can already feel the tension, right? This decision is going to have some deadly consequences.
But the text itself immediately hints that this is not going to be a fairy tale ending. It's like a little warning sign right in the prophecy. This whole peace plan is doomed from the start.
Isn't that crazy? The very same verse that sets up this big wedding also predicts its complete and utter collapse. It says Berenice would not retain the power, that her new husband would not stand, and then, even more chillingly, that she shall be given up. Basically, that she would be betrayed. And boom! This is the exact moment this political deal turns into a straight-up thriller. We're talking palace intrigue, backstabbing, the works.
Okay, so everything goes down in this one tragic year, 246 BC. First, Berenice's dad, her main protector, dies. Bad news. Then, her husband, Antiochus, immediately brings his first wife, Laodice, back into the picture. Soon after, Antiochus himself just dies. Super suspicious, right? Historians think poison. And with him gone, Laodice makes her move. She has Berenice and her little baby boy murdered.
So let's just connect the dots here. The prophecy said, she shall not retain power. Check. Berenice lost all her influence. It said, neither shall he stand. Check. Her husband King Antiochus died. And she shall be given up? Double check. She and her son were betrayed and murdered by Laodicea. I mean, the precision is just stunning.
But hold on, the story is far from over. You don't just murder a princess and expect everyone to forget about it. This called for revenge.
So back in Egypt, Bernice's brother, a guy named Ptolemy III, takes the throne. And when he finds out what happens to his sister, he is absolutely furious. And he makes a vow. The northern kingdom is going to pay.
And what's incredible is the prophecy just keeps going. It doesn't stop with the murder. Daniel 11, verse 7 picks right up and predicts that a branch of her roots, a direct relative, right, would rise up, come with an army, invade the north, and prevail. And that is precisely what went down in the history books. Ptolemy III kicks off what's known as the Third Syrian War. He marches his army right into enemy territory, takes over their forts, and absolutely crushes the army of Seleucus II, who, by the way, was the son of Laodicea, the very queen who ordered the murder. Talk about payback.
And this wasn't just a small victory, it was a total beatdown.
He didn't just win, he looted the place, taking something like 40,000 talents of silver. Now, to give you an idea, a single talent was a huge sum of money back then. We're talking an unbelievable fortune.
And it wasn't just about the money. He also brought back 2,500 precious religious statues that had been stolen from Egypt generations before. This was a huge deal for the Egyptian people. They loved him for it. They even gave him a new title, Oyer Getis, which basically means the benefactor.
And wouldn't you know it, verse 9 of Daniel 11 wraps up this part of the story perfectly. It says the king of the south, after coming into the northern kingdom, would return into his own land. And that's exactly what Ptolemy III did. He went home a victorious hero.
Okay, let's just take a breath. We've gone from a political wedding to a brutal murder to an epic war of revenge. So, after all that, what are we supposed to make of this?
I mean, we've just walked through an ancient text that seems to have scripted this incredibly complicated historical drama, move for move. It called the marriage, it called the betrayal, it called the murders, and it even called the successful war of revenge that followed, each step matching up with history.
The way this prophecy in Daniel lines up with the actual historical record is, well, it's kind of mind-blowing. It takes what could just be names and dates in a history book and turns it into this gripping, edge-of-your-seat story about real people.
And that leaves us with a pretty huge question, doesn't it? Are we looking at some kind of detailed script for the future, written centuries before it happened? Or is this just a unique way of recording history after the fact? It's a question that people have wrestled with for ages, and it really makes you think about history, and maybe even the future, in a completely different light.